And welcome, everybody, to this week's exciting episode.
Hey, we're the monkeys. People say we monkey around. Everybody's singing something, something monkey. That's exactly how the lyrics go.
It is. I was going to say we're going to have to stop singing songs in case of a copyright strike, but I don't think we're in danger in this case.
No, because we don't know the lyrics, so it's fine. It's all good. It's all gravy, baby. We're just monkeying around.
I'm just monkeying around. And this is part 2, the long-awaited part 2. It's been a week for you. It's been approximately 17 minutes for us.
Yes.
Can't prove any different.
Yes. Let's get ready to rumble! Because Bigfoot has to defend himself to see if he's real.
Yes. Yeah, he's got to prove himself.
Yeah, so part 1, just a brief update. We kind of went through the debunking kind of thing of Bigfoot.
The facts as we know them.
The facts, the stories.
The fiction as we know them.
The history of Bigfoot, where the name came from, the hoaxes that were confirmed. So we ended with the Patterson footage, which is 50-50. It's very split in the community, which is why I wanted to end on that so we can transition into the more positive side of Bigfoot.
I would say that Patterson footage is probably the most compelling footage that I've ever seen, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
So, it was a good place to end, a good place to pick up from.
Yep. So let's go.
So let's dive into part 2.
Straight in. So with this part, I have just got a collection of notes and stories and things because I will say from the get-go, again, there's no concrete evidence for Bigfoot.
No. That's why it's still to this day such a mystery.
It is.
No one's ever solved it and brought anything concrete to the table.
Yeah. And
which is good because it would make a hole in a dent in my table.
Yes. I want to say again, I love Bigfoot. I think both of us want Bigfoot to be real. We believe in the heart of Bigfoot and this theory. So
I love Bigfoot like he's my brother, man.
Yeah.
And with my hair, he looks like my brother.
We've got a lot of love for Bigfoot. There have been over 10,000 reported Bigfoot sightings in the United States. Just in the United States. So there's many, many more when you consider the whole globe. But obviously with Bigfoot, we're concentrating on the US.
The Bigfoot,
And there's been over 10,000. So most evidence that supports Bigfoot comes from eyewitness accounts and stories from individuals that have had an experience with a creature they deem to be Bigfoot. 1/3 of sightings are from the Pacific Northwest, which we spoke about. It's that area of America.
Washington, etc.
Yeah. Can you remember them all?
No.
Washington, Oregon, Idaho, North California, and Montana, with a little bit of the south of Canada on the border.
Yeah, fair enough.
The rest of these sightings are across the north of America and the south of Canada. There have been territorial displays using rocks and heavy boulders. This is the first bit of evidence that supports Bigfoot. And some say that this could be communication from Bigfoot to Bigfoot.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so there have been... You can find them online. It's just odd. It's not like a mating call, but it's kind of that wavelength of like making beautiful displays to attract and to speak to other Bigfoots.
Like the nest things that you see, the pictures of nests.
Hold it. We're gonna get to the nests.
When you say like fallen trees and that sort of thing, that was the thing that sprang to mind. That was all.
Yes, no, we will come to that. This is just rocks, boulders, and just heavy items.
And they fling them at each other as a means of communication?
No, they leave them as displays.
Oh, right.
Like they kind of make pictures out of
Harry.
No,
good catch, Harry.
Yeah, I suppose they could play catch with boulders, couldn't they? But no, this is just lovely little displays and synchronized little rocks and boulders, and some of them.
I did see that. We haven't got to the bit yet, but when we were looking through the photos of a certain someone online, and I said, "Oh, look, the display of boulders stacked up."
Yeah.
And you said, "Yeah, that's one of the things that we see as evidence."
Yes,
for Bigfoot, yeah.
Because bears don't have the brainwave to be able to do this kind of thing. They haven't got the intelligence to be able to.
They haven't got the inclination either.
No.
What's a stack of rocks to a bear?
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. So this is one piece of evidence that they can't really explain. Is it would take a large group of humans to be able to move these size boulders and rocks.
Okay.
It would be a good workout for a group of guys, I imagine.
It's kind of like a lesser form of that, like rock balancing. Have you ever seen the people doing that?
Yeah. Some of that's really impressive.
Oh, it is, yeah. But the Bigfoot are doing it on bigger scale.
Yeah, basically, mate. Trees having evidence of something called wood knocking to communicate, which is...
I'm going to knock on wood.
Such an old song as well.
Yeah.
We have to be so determined to not show our age this episode.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just a young boy, me. Yeah, we're young lads on this podcast. And wood knocking is huge, dense holes in trees, which
by Bigfoot or woodpeckers?
Oh, for Christ's sake. I can tell you're in one of their moods today. A woodpecker is not going to be able to do this kind of damage. This size hole.
Are we talking like splintering and, you know?
Yeah, big damage to trees. Twisted foliage as well is a word that has been described. So some of the trees have looked like they've been twisted. Like you say, branches and things completely snapped off. Again, they think... communication between big feet. Right. Crisscrossed, uprooted trees, which is kind of what you were saying.
Yeah.
That's another thing that bears and other large animals in the area don't. Well, there's no reason for them to do it.
No, bears scratch their backs against trees, but they don't necessarily uproot them, do they?
Baloo taught me that in the Jungle Book.
Did he?
Yeah. Sometimes
taught you how to do it.
Yeah. That's where I got it from.
Your nickname was Brown Bear at one point, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And even at home, when I don't know if this is a male thing, because my wife never seems to have this problem, but there's certain areas on your back I can't reach. I don't know if I've got short, stumpy arms or what, but I have to use like door frames to scratch my back. So when I do, she's like, "Oh, you're Baloo again." So it's like, because in the Jungle Book, he's scratching his back on trees.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
So yeah, crisscross trees. Again, this is all.
Do you sorry to reference an old reference? Do you then go Baloo?
No, I'm not even entertaining that. That
was
a terrible, terrible dad joke, and not on my watch, my friend. Entire deer carcass and skeletons found high up in trees, but we know that bears can take
jaguars and cougars. Yeah,
they take carcasses up high.
Yeah,
but there's certain skeletons that they've found up in trees that they think it's so complicated they don't think a bear would be able to create the harness in which the skeletons are hanging from the trees. It's a very complicated way of getting these deer high up in the trees. And again, a lot of this stuff, you could say it's either a group of humans or humans doing it, but it's a lot of effort to go through to
hang a skeleton in a tree.
Yeah, and they're very high up as well.
Is it always skeletons? Do you ever find like half dried out deer or anything like that? Because I would imagine that's why they're doing it, isn't it?
There have been reports
preserve the meat or something like that.
Yeah, there have been reports of like half-eaten deer carcasses, but they're like rotting and stuff, and they still have flesh on them. But they don't really know why it is that case, like why they've got that. Maybe, like you say, it could be preserving the food. Because it would make sense if you're a Bigfoot and you've got a whole deer and you think that's dinner for one day, it's going to stop bears from stealing it or other animals from stealing it.
Might do.
Yeah. Scientists actually found a collection of teepee-shaped nests with the conclusion that they appear to be created by a large ape or a group of humans.
Yeah.
So these nests they're pretty impressive.
And yeah, this is what I didn't want to skip ahead to earlier. But yeah, when you were doing your research, I showed you someone that I don't think you've particularly taken any notice, but we follow him on Instagram called Project Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And he's always putting up pictures of these nests, like trees that have been folded over into teepees and that sort of thing. He puts up footprints, stacked stones, and all of these classic things that we talked about as evidence of Bigfoot, but still hasn't come out with a clear picture of one.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's always one step behind it, but never close enough to get that smoking gun evidence.
He has found, it's not just him, but they have found, with the crisscrossing of trees, I find that really bizarre. Because there's huge trees, massive trunks, and they're like almost uprooted, like the roots have been pulled out.
Some of them are bent over nearly like 90 degrees.
Yeah, and they're huge trees.
Massive arc, yeah.
But there's no, there's no truck tracks or anything like that. It's just surrounded by forest, but there's just two random trees completely crisscrossed as if to make a shelter from the rain or something. So what is doing that?
But there's never any actual shelter.
No.
So you got like the framework of the teepee, but there's never any like foliage or anything covering it to actually keep the rain off or anything. So it's almost like it's a half-constructed shelter.
Yeah. Maybe that's just the ape part of them, and the human part hasn't
get
kicked
halfway
in.
through building it and they think, well, that's good enough.
So in 2001...
Good enough for my ancestors is good enough for me.
In 2001, nature documentary The Great North, a dark figure was captured on film while the filmmakers were recording a herd of caribou. When asked, director William Reeve claims it wasn't human and denied seeing or hearing of any bears in the surrounding area. So in this documentary, there is a dark figure, a huge dark figure in the background.
Right.
Again, they can't prove that it's Bigfoot, but they claim... Do you remember in part one I said there was something called the Dark Watchers back in the day, and they were kind of stalking the campsites, and it was almost the same. It was like this big dark figure was stalking them and following them and watching what they were doing. And
like Slender Man.
A bit like Slender Man, but bigger and hairier.
Oh, was it hairy? It doesn't necessarily say that in your notes. So.
This particular one, no, but the Dark Watchers were,
I suppose,
big, dark and hairy.
That one, because you said that was in the distance, so I don't suppose they got clear enough footage of it to be able to
haven't
identify whether it was hairy or not. It could have been a really big man in a trench coat.
Yeah, it could have been. Bigfoot may be nocturnal. Have you heard this theory?
I have. I have. I remember watching a documentary years and years ago about a guy who, I think he's some kind of homesteader. Is that what they call it? Where they live out in the middle of nowhere with no like power or anything that, apart from maybe some solar panels or whatever.
Oh, like living off the grid.
Yeah,
again.
living off grid. Yeah. And he lived up in the mountains, up in the woods, and he said that he was not friends with, but knew of an entire family of Bigfoots.
Yeah.
And regularly at night, he would hear them calling to each other and, like you say, uprooting trees, making a lot of racket in the forest. But it was always at night that he'd hear them.
Yeah. So they do hypothesize for an explanation as this is why humans... we don't see them during the day, really. Even trail cams at night, they seem to be aware of maybe have got supernatural powers, but there have been trail cams that have picked up large dark shadows, but there's never been actual, proper footage. But that is just one theory that they are nocturnal, and like you say, they've got it written down here: sounds and screams in the forests at night time. Yeah, that can't be explained. Retired naval linguist expert Scott Nelson, he analysed many Bigfoot sound recordings from 1970 and stated it is definitely a language but not human in origin, and the sounds could not have been faked. So this is one linguist expert that says it can't be faked. these are sounds that we've never heard before, and it is clearly communicating amongst each other. So that's
enough,
another theory. And they were old recordings from 1970.
Right.
So that's why he
okay,
also
yeah,
leads
yeah.
to believe that like it's very unlikely that they were faked, because back in those days with camcorders and things, you're more likely to just try and film something and capture it. And do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm guessing it's old VCR and
Yeah,
things.
you haven't got necessarily the technology to recreate those kind of things in the same way that we do nowadays, computer generated or whatever.
Yep. So, like I said, my notes are short for this one. So some experts suggest Bigfoot could have infrasound, which explains some eyewitness accounts as being disorientated, dizzy, and anxious.
Okay.
So,
Infrasound.
if you will, I would like to tell
Oh, go
my
for it.
story. So,
Yes. This is Josh's personal experience with Bigfoot.
yeah, not my personal experience, but so I've always grown up thinking Bigfoot is real, 100%. You couldn't tell me otherwise. And one of the main reasons I believe in Bigfoot is because of a story my dad told me. Now, just a little background. My dad is military. He's very straight to the point. He's a blunt man. He's quite a serious guy.
He looks like Colonel Sanders.
He does look like Colonel Sanders. He's retired military now. He has served his time. And my dad is very, like, I suppose black and white is the term.
Yeah.
You know, he grew up being forced to go to Sunday school. He knows
Church,
everything about the Bible, yet he does not believe in God. He's very, honest about certain things. And he said to me when I was younger and it's 17, 18, I was going down rabbit holes, looking into conspiracy theories, all sorts of things. And he never really entertained it. He was just kind of like, oh, whatever, it's a load of rubbish, There are two things my dad believes in. Bearing in mind, again, he does not believe in God, but knows everything about the Bible. There are two things he believes in. JFK was assassinated.
Right, yeah.
And Bigfoot.
Okay.
Now, he tells me a story of his personal account with Bigfoot, and I'm going to retell his story best I can.
Okay.
So
when was this set?
We're talking...
No, it was a few years ago.
Early 1970s.
Right, okay.
It seems about right. So my dad was training to be like a medic in the military, and he was living in Montana at the time, which is one of the areas of the North Pacific, whatever we said.
Northwestern Pacific, yeah.
So he was working in a hospital, and at the time he was training, so he would have been like a nurse kind of status.
Right.
And he tells me he was on call in the emergency room this one night, and it was him and this senior doctor, and it wasn't that crazy busy. And all of a sudden, this girl gets rushed in on a gurney, and she's hysterical, screaming, kicking off. They can't calm her down or anything. And there's police there, and she was with 3 other like campers.
Right, yeah.
So the police are speaking to the campers. The doctors,
hikers, probably more than campers.
Yeah, they're trying to work out what's going on, and they can't calm her down. Eventually, they have to give her a sedative to calm her down. She goes to sleep. So they start finding out information. They start talking to the campers, and the hikers, campers. They start telling the story, and all of them are asked individually, and their stories are rock solid. They are all the same, So the campers start saying how their friends said about going out looking for firewood. They had their camp, they had the fire blazing. She was going out just round the back of the camp to get some more firewood, and they heard a blood-curdling scream. They started to run over to the area in which they thought she was at, and 30 seconds to a minute later, there was another blood-curdling scream, and it was halfway up this mountain.
Right.
A couple minutes goes by, and another scream, and it was towards the top of the mountain.
Something that would have, like, I'm presuming this mountain is something that would have taken them hours to walk up.
Yeah. A human wouldn't be able to do that in minutes.
No, it'd be like best part of a day's hike.
Yeah. It's a big old cliff, big old mountain. So the next day, they find her at the bottom of the mountain. She's got some, marks, scratches, whatever. They managed to
blood and
the whole lot. She's in a bad way. So then she comes to. That's when she starts screaming, going all crazy. They can't calm her down. So then that's when they get the emergency service involved. Take her to the hospital. That's where my dad comes in. So, a couple of days goes by. She's still sleeping. They've got all this, the information they've got. And when she wakes up, she's like in a comatose state. Her eyes are wide open. She's not blinking. She's just staring straight forward. Completely unresponsive. She won't answer questions. No one can talk to her. She's just not doing anything but staring forward. And she's almost dribbling. She's just not having
backwards
any of
and
it.
Forwards. Just
in a real bad way. And they've tried medication. They've tried everything, and nothing's getting through to them. So one of the doctors that my dad was working with had the suggestion of using some like picture cards to jog her memory to find out what happened. They showed her pictures of all sorts, coyotes, whatever. They showed up a picture of a bear, nothing. The minute the psychiatrist for the hospital held up a picture or a drawing of what we know as Bigfoot, immediately she started hysterical screaming and crying. They couldn't control her again.
Up the walls to get away from it.
Yeah,
sort of thing,
that created such a reaction from her that they then had to
sedate her again.
And I asked my dad, and he swears blind that is 100% exactly what happened to him.
Gospel,
and that was enough for him to believe in Bigfoot because he's witnessed that girl go through all of that. I since asked him and said, did you ever find out what happened? And he seems to think, she went on eventually to live a normal life, and she might be on documentaries and things now that we've not seen or heard of, but
we wouldn't know her anyway. It was back in the 70s.
Yeah, and that was the one bit of you can't call it evidence, but that was enough for my dad to believe in Bigfoot, and he always told me that story. And like I say again, there's two things my dad believes in: Bigfoot and JFK.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, funnily enough, that's only one of the few times I've ever seen my dad cry was when he was talking about JFK and what a great president he was and how he got assassinated, and he remembers exactly like where he was, what he was doing at the time, and he was like, "That's the best president we ever goddamn had," and stuff like that. And it actually brought a tear to his eye, and I felt bad. I was like, "Oh, I'll stop asking you questions about JFK now." So yeah, that's the one thing that stays with me, where I'm like, that kind of sways me to think that maybe there is some sort of creature.
That does seem
Bigfoot.
like a fairly unique and genuine story, for him to stay true to that story.
Yeah.
For literally the rest of his life.
He's a no-nonsense kind of guy, man. Like, I've asked him about ghosts and aliens and stuff before as well, and he's just not interested. He's like, no, not really. I don't really believe in it. But for whatever reason, well, this is the reason. He believes in Bigfoot because of this and what he saw when he was a young guy.
Fair enough, yeah.
So yeah, there's many stories like that, including another one I've got for you. So in 1924, Albert Ostman was kidnapped while in his sleeping bag. He was taken across country for 3 hours and, described as Bigfoot, brought him to his Bigfoot family.
Oh.
There were 2 Bigfoot adults and 2 Bigfoot children, a family of big feet. He was held captive for 6 days. He describes them as being over 8 feet tall, and he escaped by making Bigfoot groggy, feeding him something called snuff, which is a form of tobacco back in the day.
Yeah, I've experienced snuff.
Yeah. Some people would
not the films.
Some people would probably think we're on snuff now for even discussing Bigfoot.
Maybe. I'm just wondering if he was invited to try their porridge.
The porridge?
Yeah, like the Daddy Bigfoot porridge was
Oh,
too hot.
right, yeah. That's what it is. This is just Goldilocks. This is the origins of Goldilocks. So Albert Ostman, he actually kept quiet for 33 years in fear of being called crazy. And in 1957, he told the local newspaper, and then his story got out. But again, he swears by it, and his story has never changed.
fair enough.
I'm pretty sure he's probably passed on by now.
Yeah.
But when he was alive, he never deterred from his story.
1924. Yeah, I would imagine he's probably passed on by now. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another eyewitness account to Bigfoot. And there is a theme here, because obviously it's just eyewitness accounts and stories really for evidence of Bigfoot, unfortunately.
That's all there is.
So 1994, forest ranger Paul Freeman videotaped an alleged Bigfoot in the Blue Mountains in Oregon, called the Freeman footage. And this also continues to be scrutinized and authenticity debated. So that's another video that people can see online.
I can't say that I'm particularly familiar with that one just off the top of my head, but I'll look into it.
It's not as good as the Patson footage, but it's okay. It's all right. It's not... I don't think you'd look at it and immediately go, that's fake, that's a hoax. Like, I think you'd look at it and say, okay, fair enough. Like, if you want
There's a possibility there, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to believe in Bigfoot, it sways in that direction.
Rightio.
Anthropologist Jeffrey Meldrum, who specialises in the study of primate feet.
Right, okay.
There was a fancy word for that, and again, I didn't write it down.
Dare write it down.
And I'm not even going to attempt to say it. But the short dummy version
he
is...
studies wooden blocks of feet, does he?
Not the wooden block, actual primate feet. He possesses over 300 footprint casts, and he maintains... could not be made of wood carvings or human feet, including dermal ridges. So these casts that he has have dermal ridges in them. So he claims that some of these footprints, he says, are genuine.
Dermal ridges as in like the footprints, the folds and wrinkles in your skin. Yeah,
yeah, like the detail under the foot.
The other thing that he'd probably agree about is you could probably tell with the genuinity of footprints if you were an expert in these kind of fields, because, like you say, if you just have a wooden block on the bottom of your feet, that wooden block's not going to move. But if you're balancing and walking, particularly in tough terrain, your toes are going to leave different levels of pressure on the ground. Different depths and stuff like that. A wooden block isn't going to do that, but a genuine footprint would. Someone like him would be able to identify that kind of, scrutinise it.
So he suggests that Bigfoot is real because he's got the footprints.
Yeah.
I will say as well, I watched a few documentaries on Bigfoot because funnily enough, that is pretty much the evidence I've got.
Right.
I have got a few notes here. So again, I'll just say overall, there is no real evidence to support Bigfoot, just a belief that people all over the world want to believe in.
Yeah.
But I have seen a couple of documentaries, one of them including Joe Rogan. And there was a series that Joe Rogan did, and I'm sure it was called Joe Rogan Explores or Joe Rogan... whatever it is, he had a show, and he did a Bigfoot special, because he's a massive fan of Bigfoot as well, just like we are.
Yeah.
And you can see him as the episode is going on. You can just see the life of him just slowly going, he's not real. He's not real. And you just, and that if you ever see that clip of Joe Rogan slowly finding out just that there's no evidence and deflating, that is exactly how I felt researching this.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there is just no evidence. Just eyewitness accounts and stories, mate. So I think, in 20, even to the point where in 2019, the FBI released all its evidence of Bigfoot after over 40 years of studying, and they had no evidence. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but with every report of this kind of thing, whether it's a bear attack or the police have to follow it up.
It gets filed somewhere,
So they have to investigate this. So eventually, if you get over the years so many people reporting Bigfoot, you are going to get authorities looking into this. They looked into it for over 40 years, mate, and there's no evidence.
Some little dude in a little, like I say, a little cupboard somewhere, like Fox Mulder, you know, whose job it is to look for the boogeyman.
Yeah.
You know, there is going to be an officer out there somewhere that, whether they want to be that person or not, they have to go and follow up on all these investigations, don't they?
Yeah. So just because, though, there is no substantial evidence for Bigfoot doesn't mean that it never existed.
No.
So,
and I feel like the best of the evidence that we have got, or that you've talked about yesterday and today. Did I say yesterday and today? I meant early in the last episode. Be last week for everybody listening to this. Is from years ago. Like this guy, 1924, got to meet Bigfoot and his family. This other one, 1994, was the most recent one that we've had. The Patterson footage was, 1967?
Yeah.
And all, like, throughout, and even that documentary that I heard, that I watched, was years ago. This was like back, maybe, I don't know if it was as late as the 2000s. I might have been like a teenager when this guy, I can't remember, was it like Louis Theroux or something like that doing something? I can't remember exactly who it was that was reporting on Bigfoot, but yeah, they'd gone out, and like this old man who lived out in the woods. This was years and years ago. I'd like to think that Bigfoot, because I've always had a problem with Bigfoot in that if it's there and it exists, there would have to be a population.
Yeah.
No one has ever found, like you say, remains, burial sites, and if Bigfoot buries its dead, they might be cannibalistic, who knows? I don't know, I'm just genuine, but yeah, there's never been any kind of proof of population. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is no population. Just means they're very, very hard to detect. And we're talking jaguar levels of hard to detect. Snow leopards, hard to detect. You know, people go up into the Himalayas for 6 months trying to get a single photograph of a snow leopard.
Yeah.
That's the kind of commitment that you'd need to get a genuine photograph of Bigfoot.
And people have tried.
Even with trail cams. I remember, it wasn't Top Gear, but it was the TV series they did after that for Amazon, Grand Tour. They went out to South America trying to photograph animals, and one of the things that they had to photograph was a jaguar. And they even took, like you say, trap cams out there. The best they ever got was the eye shine.
Yeah.
And they were lucky to get that. You know, so if animals that we know of and can prove or exist are that elusive, that hard to get evidence of, then something that doesn't want to be found is going to be even harder, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
And if the population, like, I don't know exactly how many jaguars there are in the world or snow leopards, but we're talking just in several hundred in the entire world. But that's still a population. It's a thriving population.
Yeah.
Might be endangered or whatever. Bigfoot might have been it might still be endangered. Might have been endangered 50 years ago.
It could be like the dodo.
Yeah.
It could be
just
extinct.
got wiped out.
Yeah. And that's actually my theory. I think if I'm leaning towards the thought process of Bigfoot is real, my personal opinion is they've just become extinct. And the last few that were around, that these sightings, like you say, by middle of the 90s, how do we know that they couldn't have just died out? And maybe by 1990, there was only 25, 30 left in the wild, and now they're extinct.
Yeah.
We don't know.
It wouldn't even necessarily be like poachers or anything, but someone just defending their own territory, their own homestead. Like I said, if they're not in tune with these creatures, have just, been firing shots aimlessly into the night, thinking, there's something out there creating a noise, like that. Oh, there goes the last Bigfoot.
Yeah, but then I suppose if someone actually shot a Bigfoot, you'd want they would probably think to keep the carcass.
You'd think that they'd want to prove that they've found Bigfoot evidence, wouldn't you?
But like you said about rituals and things, like whether they bury the dead or whatever, how do we know that to die or something, they're not like a cat and they take themselves off to this deep cave or deep forest,
Exactly.
and then we just don't see it or see the remains? Or so that's the thing. Still to this day, Bigfoot is debated as being real or not. I can't decide.
We
I
saw
don't
some
know.
quite compelling. Well, I thought we'd seen some quite compelling evidence. I don't know, probably a year more ago. Where you showed me the video on TikTok. Do you remember the tree that seemed to get literally? It was in the distance up on this ridge, and this tree, this pine tree, just suddenly seemed to get uprooted out of the ground, wiggled a bit, and then just like got carried out off over the ridge through the trees. And I was like, what the hell could do that? It's got to be Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And we believed that. That was some strong, compelling evidence for Bigfoot for the longest time, didn't we?
Yeah, until I Googled it and, well, used a search engine. And it is very possible that it's on the back of a pickup truck or a snowmobile, this tree.
I'm still a little bit skeptical of that because who would... Like, I can imagine uprooting a tree and towing it with your snowmobile or your pickup truck, but you drag it horizontally. So you wouldn't leave it vertical as you...
It depends.
I don't know.
It depends. The only thing that makes me think it could have been upright is...
Well, I saw it on the video being carried upright.
Yeah. So my theory as to why it could be upright and why you wouldn't lay it down if you were moving a tree is the same as like when my mum ordered hedges and things to put in her garden.
Right.
They have them upright in like sacks of
Oh,
like
to
water
stop them
and
getting
stuff.
damaged.
Yeah. So we don't know. That's the thing. Unless it's firewood, why would you? No. So, and the other thing is there was that video that went viral on the train. Do you remember?
Yes, is it Colorado?
Yeah,
where there's
Sasquatch on the side of the
the
mountain.
train's just slowly going along, and someone's got their phone, or I don't know what it is, but the Sasquatch is just climbing up this sort of embankment, and then just squats down, doesn't he? And it just sort of blends into the background. You can't see me, or you can't.
in the middle of the day.
Yeah, middle of the day.
First, it got called out as a hoax. Apparently, there was evidence to show, or someone came forward and said no, it was a hoax.
Right.
And then I later discovered that it was an abandoned like advert for some sort of truck or automobile. So they never actually used the advert, but it was just rough.
Oh right, like
filming.
Sick of getting footage like this. You could get closer with a Land Rover, or
It was something along that. It was something to do with. You weren't meant to know it was a train. It was meant to be just someone traveling really slow up a mountain. Or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And they were saying like, "Oh, look at this truck! You can drive sideways up a mountain." But they
Such
never
a smooth ride. You can take a picture of Bigfoot while you're doing it.
Yeah. But they never went through with the advert. But supposedly that is just stock footage of an advert that they never used.
Oh right, and
So-
I suppose they keep it online because they like the hype.
Yeah. So I'm actually pretty gutted, mate, because I really believe in Bigfoot being real. I just don't think he is or her alive anymore. I think they're extinct.
You think the extinction
Yeah.
theory
I think
still?
it's-
Well, I think you mentioned that last time when we had Mike Pudlow on, talking about his book on the Bigfoot and stuff like that. That was your theory then, and you're sticking with it, yeah?
Yeah. If I had to put a date on it or a time frame, specifically, I think they died out in like 1982. I don't know why. I just think mid 80s, early 80s.
So the guy in 1994 was BS, was it?
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, this is how
He was
legends.
a park ranger, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, something like that. But these are how these legends are made, isn't it? It's the same as anything else, like unicorns and dragons and stuff like that. They're just stories. Like some would say the Bible, but I'm not going to go there. It's just.
Are they though? Are unicorns stories? Are dragon stories? These are
the thing.
podcasts we haven't covered yet.
That's the thing,
Don't
mate.
make that claim.
The unicorn.
Doing yourself out of future episodes. Here.
No, I'm not. No, definitely not. So the unicorn is the Scottish national animal, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
The unicorn?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes. You can Google this afterwards. I'm being 100%.
Sure it's not a narwhal?
Nope.
Okay.
The national animal for Scotland is a unicorn.
Okay.
So there you go. There's some evidence there in favour of the unicorn.
There you go.
Also,
it'd be Nessie, if they're going to go for mythical creatures.
That's the other thing. We've done an episode on Nessie, and think of all the stories and eyewitness accounts of Nessie.
It turned out to be an eel.
It could have been a giant eel.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the same thing with Bigfoot.
And then we did an episode on eels, and we couldn't explain where they came from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there was bears called a Bigfoot. So Bigfoot could have just been a huge bear or a few huge bears over the years. We don't know. This is the thing.
And we did an episode on giants, and they have big feet. And we found footprints of theirs.
Yeah. So we're never going to know. We just don't know. We can only speculate and theorize.
We don't think that today there is an actual population of big feet around anymore.
No, I don't think
At least
so.
not in North America.
Yeah.
Pacific North and Northwestern America.
Yeah, I mean, the Appalachian Mountains are very mysterious in itself.
Yeah.
I still see videos today of people recording and hearing these wildly loud noises. And, I don't listen to those videos or watch those videos thinking like, oh, that's just a fox. Because some of them are so guttural. You're like, what is that? And it's odd. So there is unexplained things in these mountain ranges and certain areas of America. And I just don't know. Unfortunately, I have been deflated with Bigfoot. I don't believe in him as strongly as I did.
So we didn't do what we promised Mike we were going to do and get to the bottom of it, really, did we?
No, we didn't. No one ever will.
Unless the bottom is, it's just not real.
That's the thing. Like you said earlier about people tracking animals for like months at a time, people have attempted that. They've gone trekking, stayed in places. There was one guy I read about who, I think it was a year and a half. It was like 18 months or something.
What, tracking a Bigfoot?
Yeah, he'd heard about Bigfoot in this specific area where there was like this lake and there was like salmon and all these things for where you would think a Bigfoot would thrive.
Yeah.
And he staked the place out and he lived like a wild man. And he'd done that in a couple of places as well, not just one. He tracked, again, no evidence. There was nothing. He found the bears in the end. So you have got people that are dedicated to finding Bigfoot, and unfortunately they just don't find any evidence at all. And the other thing I will say as well is there's been so many hoaxes of Bigfoot and people trying to create clickbait and just get views and things. That upsets me in itself because I think that's very damaging to the people that do believe in Bigfoot and have hope for Bigfoot. Yeah, when you just see hoax after hoax after hoax.
Spreads the negativity, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just gives more fuel to the fire of people going, yeah, I knew he's not real.
And when you think, like, just one like final point from me at least, is scientifically we know of several like early sort of hominid style early human sort of type creatures, Cro-Magnon and different kind of hominids. That one of those types of early primate, that missing link from between primate and man might have developed in the United States, might have grown, evolved to be the Bigfoot. Early Native Americans may have like walked side by side with them, maybe different communities, but respectful sort of thing, until Europeans started colonizing the place and going around shooting and killing, hunting, eating absolutely anything they felt like, and then the Bigfoot has got gradually over the last few hundred years just wiped out.
Yeah.
By carelessness.
Yeah. So.
And lack of food and resources.
Yeah. So that's Bigfoot summed up in 2 parts. Whether you believe in Bigfoot still is fine. Whether you don't believe in Bigfoot, that's also fine.
The important thing is you buy the T-shirt.
Yeah, Bigfoot and Pirate's Big Mouth. Listen to Pirate. Buy T-shirts, everyone. For the 7th time in 2 episodes. Click on the link underneath and get yourself a T-shirt.
See, you're brainwashed now.
Yeah. and click on www.ht3p/paranormalityuk/mymercher.org.uk or whatever it is to find it. Or just click the link.
or just go to our link tree, whatever. Yeah, I'll tell you that.
So what are you giving out of 10 then?
Bigfoot. I think it's a difficult one to rate because I think the legend of Bigfoot and the fact that it could have existed, I'd rate it up there.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it seems to have been, like I say, wiped out or whatever in recent years. So I have to mark it down for that reason because there is no concrete evidence. But the folklore and like the historical evidence that's out there, you know, I'd give that some pretty good clout. So I'd give it a 7.8.
Okay. I like that. That is fair. I thought you were going to go lower, so that is fair.
No, because I'd love for Bigfoot to be real, and I'd love to be proven wrong on it. That you know, it's no longer around. I think, like you, I think it probably was at one point because the legend's got to have come from somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. There's got to be some truth to it, whether it was back in the day or not. There has to be something because it's been reported around the world.
Yeah.
And in Mike Pudlow Omni's book, you can see everywhere that's had reportings of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm Mr. 50-50, and you know I'm usually on the fence with most things, ghosts, aliens, all sorts. But for Bigfoot, I'm going to make the exception, and I'm going to go as bold as to say I'm 60-40. I still have a little bit of hope, that Bigfoot is there, or at least was there until recent years. But I'm just going to give it an 8 flat.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm the same. There's no evidence, so you've got to knock it down. But the legend, the folklore, my dad's story growing up always entertained
they're very
me.
compelling. Very.
So yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.
But that's from the 1970s. That's nearly 50 years ago.
Oh yeah.
A lot can happen in 50 years. That's the only thing. So would that be an average of 7.9 anyway?
Yeah. I think that's fair for Bigfoot.
I think it is, yeah.
Some people are going to rate it much lower, and some people will rate it a 10 and say, no, he's 100% real.
Yeah.
It's weird how you always refer to Bigfoot as he, isn't it? It's natural to he, him, she,
I guess
her.
a female Bigfoot wouldn't have as big a feet, so it'd just be medium foot.
Maybe also that's how they died out.
Yeah.
There's only ever like a majority of males being born. So they can't carry on.
You reckon?
Yeah. Medium foot. That's the second terrible dad joke in this episode.
Oh, I'm
Medium
sorry.
Foot.
Sorry about my age.
That's all right. You can't control that.
Anyway, that's all for this episode and the last episode. That's all for Bigfoot. Yeah. Unless you want to go and buy a T-shirt. I had to slip it in one last time.
That's what she said.
Oh, I'm Pirate.
I'm Josh.
This has been Paranormality UK. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.